This is the Hollyland Pyro 7 and Pyro S wireless transmission system. When Hollyland offered to send me both of them, I was initially hesitant, but happily accepted once I envisioned the content it would allow me to create. Truth be told, the short film I shot would not have been possible without it, especially since the majority was shot wide open at f1.4. Cinema lenses normally don't have autofocus, so a monitor like this is crucial when filming yourself. The Pyro S comes with a receiver and transmitter, which allow you to transmit a camera feed up to 4 receivers. This is useful as it allows clients or yourself to monitor what you're shooting, even when not behind the camera. The star product is the Pyro 7, which is a transmitter, receiver, and monitor all in one. This is pretty unique as it means you don't need to bring a separate monitoring device for your receiver. You can of course still connect the Pyro S to an iPhone, tablet, or other monitor, but consolidating it into one product is much tidier. The Pyro 7 has a carbon build, it still feels high-tech considering its affordability. The accessories are a bit light, but that's because when everything's completely assembled, it carries substantial weight. My package came with a memory card, handles, strap, shoe mount, charger, DC adapter, and more. The handles are ergonomic, adjustable, and have additional mounting points. They get loose easily, that's why the magnetic L wrench holder on the bottom comes in handy. When placed properly, I love that the monitor can stand on itself so you can position the camera while still checking it hands-free. Alternatively, the strap is perfect for hanging comfortably on your neck because of its padded cushioning. The Pyro 7 has a 7-inch screen, which makes me regret only getting a 5-inch small HD monitor. When faced with both, my eyes always gravitated toward the larger Pyro 7. The default screen is surprisingly color accurate and also allows for calibration with RGB channels. I do have to say its contrast and sharpness is noticeably inferior. When I wanted to nail critical focus, I was never fully confident even when zooming in 4x, which confusingly can only be done with a button and not through pinching. But the monitor does include focus assist to help in that regard. The Pyro also supports customizable waveforms, vector scopes, histograms, zebras, 3D LUTs, aspect markers, crosshatch, anamorphic D-squeeze, mirror, flip, lock, and even image overlay and video recording. To be honest, I think many people might even prefer this menu system to Page OS of the Small HD, as all its tools are available in one bar, as opposed to swapping between pages and going through detailed menus. There are some deeper settings you can toggle like fan speed, since both the Pyro 7 and S make considerable noise when active. Here's what it sounds like. If you're recording audio, you definitely have to be aware of how close either of these are to the microphone. The function buttons are also a blessing. I have them mapped to screenshot and sleep so I can conserve battery when I'm not actively using it. The battery life is acceptable, but largely depends on the screen's brightness, which maxes at 1200 nits. It's perfectly bright enough indoors, but if you have trouble with glaring outside, you can use a lens hood that attaches onto the front of the screen. I just wish I could adjust brightness without going into the settings, as I'm always cognizant of battery. I would say with two MPF 750s, you can expect around 4 hours of continuous runtime if you aren't above 50% brightness. The two hot swappable MPF slots for the Pyro 7 mean you can change batteries when one is depleted without powering down. This is particularly useful because the monitor takes approximately 15 seconds to turn on and 10 more to find a signal, so you ideally don't want to be constantly turning the monitor off or it'll slow you down. To connect to another transmitter or receiver, you simply screw in a couple of flexible antennas and scan for one of the 8 channels, or let it automatically choose the route with the best connection. The range is quite impressive with a max distance of 1300 feet, but I would lose signal even a few feet away if I was behind the thick walls of my home. As long as you have direct line of sight, you should have a stable connection. Latency is the fundamental specification focus pullers will consider in wireless transmission. The shorter the latency, the less delay when monitoring. making it more responsive to pull focus on. Lag can be determined by several factors: cables, I/O, cameras, and transmitters. When connected through the HDMI ports on the XH2S and Blackmagic, the delay was surprisingly longer than on the Sigma FP. Through extensive testing with multiple stopwatch applications, the latency on any camera seems to be about 58 milliseconds from reality to what is captured. This equates to an average total latency of about 280 to 290 milliseconds on the BMC C6K full frame versus 174 milliseconds on the FP. The Pyro itself looks to have about 116 ms through the FP, but you may want to refer to the total latency, as this is what is perceived in practice. There's an argument that every millisecond counts when pulling focus, since you have to also take into account human reaction time, which causes an additional delay of 250 milliseconds. In my opinion, anything under 100 milliseconds is ideal for focusing, but in practice, pulling focus with 174 ms is possible in controlled settings. This is because reaction time is largely influenced by anticipating motion, and why more than 100 ms of ping is still playable for online video games. For handheld and run and gun, you'll have to rely on maintaining distance to keep your subject in focus. At f1.4, it should be nearly impossible. On certain cameras like the Blackmagic, 280 ms will be unusable for pulling focus in any capacity. So if focus pulling isn't a top priority, the Pyro 7 is perfectly designed for content creators that wish to film themselves. Although latency could be better, choosing Hollyland is great value, and I frankly love using the bigger monitor. I never want to go back to the days where I have to guess if I'm in focus. The main appeal of the Pyro is that it's simple and works effortlessly. You just turn it on and never have to fumble in the settings. It's a neat, complete product, allowing you to focus on what really matters: composing images. It's easy to get caught up chasing image quality, but what use is the best gear if you can't even see what you're doing? Visualizing and getting the shot is what you actually need to tell better stories. With our attention constantly bombarded by the technicals, our artistic vision gets cluttered in the process. Maybe the only thing keeping you from making that short film is seeing the bigger picture.